Hi everyone, it's Alicia, and I'm doing this video because we unfortunately got some sad news in the YouTube pagan community. A long-time contributor, or should I say contributors, to our community, the Pagan Perspective YouTube channel, a collaborative channel that features all different pagans from all over the world who all follow their own unique paths, and every week they answer viewer submitted questions, and they have been on YouTube for 11 years, so therefore they're a big part of a lot of our lives. But they unfortunately announced these past couple weeks, 2 weeks, that they're going to be closing down and going on hiatus, and either closing down for good or reconfiguring to adjust to the various contributors' lives, both in a personal sense and given that everything that's been going on. So first of all, I want to say, if any of the contributors, if any of you guys are watching, I hope that everyone is okay and safe and sound, and I hope that this decision wasn't done because somebody got hurt or sick or something really serious happened. I hope it was just a case of it's time to move on, and we just need to take a break and take a step back and figure things out. So first and foremost, I hope everyone is well, and to give back to the channel, I'm going to be just doing this video sharing how I first came across it and what my journey with it is, because like me, I'm sure a lot of you found paganism and various subjects on witchcraft through the Pagan Perspective YouTube channel. So first, we have to start with how I came to paganism. I grew up in the Episcopal Church, which, for those of you who don't know, the Episcopal Church, it's also known in England, I believe, as the Anglican Church, but it's one of the more liberal, progressive branches of Christianity. So I grew up in a very liberal, hippie, I guess you could say, branch of Christianity. There was no fire and brimstone. There was no, if you don't do this exactly, you're gonna go to hell and you have to convert people. There was none of that. But even with that, I was still the kind of oddball hippie kid in Sunday school. I was always asking questions and keeping the teachers and the ministers up on their toes, and I was pointing out contradictions in the Bible and being like, well, wait a second, like, hang on, God's supposed to be all loving, but yet he did the whole 10 plagues thing and killed a bunch of innocent kids and stuff. But so anyway, yeah, to make a long story short, I always agreed with Jesus's message of the golden rule and all that, and that to me seemed the heart of not just Christianity, but just to be a good person in general. And the more dogmatic aspects of Christianity didn't really click with me. Like I said, even though the branch I grew up in was very progressive and liberal and open, there would still sometimes be a sense of, oh, you can think for yourself, but you kind of have to come to the established conclusions that, official basic Christian dogma talks about, or work your way backwards from those conclusions. And I never jived with that. And thankfully, my family always taught me, think for yourself, follow your gut, instead of always listening to what is, quote unquote, what is proper in scripture or what the minister says. So I came from a very liberal Christian background, but there was also a sense of not belonging for me, because for me, being visually impaired, I was always the but I was always the disabled kid in church. I never met any others, as far as I could tell. My sister and I, because I have a twin sister and she is blind, so whenever we would walk into the church, it was like we could always sense that kind of uncomfortableness. Even though most people were very nice to us, there was always that sense of awkward, like, oh, people are a little nervous around us and maybe they don't know how to break the ice and they don't know what to say and all that. You know, people offering prayer cards or invitations for healing prayers. And again, all well-meaning things, but that sort of opened the door, especially as I got older and started to really look into, well, if this is my religion, what is it really about? And what do I believe in connection to it? As I got older and would hear sermons about, you know, Jesus healing the blind, or disability always being used as a metaphor for a lack of spiritual faith, or a test to other Christians to make sure, are you being Christian enough? Are you being charitable enough and all that? So as I got older, I really started to question my faith and be like, hang on, why should I believe in a God that apparently, according to quote-unquote traditional Christian doctrine, why should I believe in a God that apparently made everyone else for one earthly lifetime, made everyone else in his image except for people like me, and he either made a mistake with people like me or he purposely messed up to make us secondary characters in our own life stories. So I eventually came to paganism through discovering the Mists of Avalon in my 11th or 12th grade. I think it was 12th grade, but my late high school English class, we were doing a unit on the Arthurian legends, and one of the stories we touched on was the Mists of Avalon, the mini-series, or the first 45 minutes, because we couldn't watch the whole series since it was like 3 hours. But that is what opened the door for me, seeing Morgan Le Fay come through the mists on the Avalon barge, and just the music and it just woke up something in my soul I didn't realize was asleep. And from there I went online and I looked up the message boards for it on IMDb, and I found fans asking things like, who is your matron and patron deities? And honestly, I thought it was just, those were just threads that were fan fiction. I didn't realize that this is still a legit, real, living, breathing religion for people. But once I found that out, I was immediately drawn to it. But I guess the more fire and brimstone Christianity, I had absorbed that more from pop culture, or just living in the United States. That's a very Judeo-Christian centered society, if not a religious sense. I guess I absorbed more of the fire and brimstone aesthetics of Christianity than I thought, because I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, am I being drawn to this as some sort of deception? Am I going to go to hell if I say I no longer identify as Christian, and these are the beliefs that I feel more drawn to and I feel match my own innate spiritual faith? So after a lot of soul searching and private studying on and off, I would read stuff, and then I would draw back and try and like be super Christian and like all that stuff and get really into Christianity, and then it would be, but paganism kept calling me, the goddess and God kept calling me. And so one of the things I found when I was still in the broom closet was the Pagan Perspective. And I think one of the first videos I found was from Cara, and it was titled something like Advice for a Beginning Witch, or Tips for Beginning Pagans. I'll find it and link it below. But that video and countless others on the channel that were just about the basics of paganism, and this is what our advice is for beginners, it really helped me feel comfortable with, hey, this faith isn't about devil worship. It's not something evil or spooky or anything like that. It's about nature and honoring gods and traditions that are either being rediscovered or reinvented because they've been lost to history, and so we kind of have to piece together what we do know and also bring it into the 21st century. And so it really gave me the confidence to solidify my own beliefs before I eventually came out of the broom closet to myself and my family in the summer of 2016. And I started as a Christo-pagan, which is someone who blends elements of Christianity and paganism and works with figures from Christianity. As I've been on my path, I found I identify more now as Wiccan. I still believe in what might be considered Christian elements. For instance, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But that, to me, I found that message in many faiths, and so I feel that's such a generic, such a basic spiritual truth that I don't really count that as Christian necessarily. But I do still work with Christian figures in my practice, specific saints and Jesus and Mary Magdalene, more so in the sense that I keep them in my path, much in the same way you would keep contact with really old friends. You wouldn't discard friendships just because you make new friends, and so I'll work with them, or if I feel their energy, I'll invite them into my circle, or if I'm doing a spell and be like, hey, come on in, good to see you, come in, help me out, stay if you like. But yeah, that was how I discovered the Pagan Perspective. I don't even remember the first video I found, but it really solidified and strengthened and gave me the courage to come out of the broom closet and to practice my faith openly. And I enjoyed watching it every week. They even answered a couple of my questions I submitted. I remember I submitted one about paganism in the arts, what people's favorite depictions of paganism are, and how we think arts have both helped and hurt our image, because, I mean, let's face it, the image of the evil witch goes back to Shakespeare and older than that. But also there's things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and The Mists of Avalon and The Craft, which I just watched recently the other day for the first time. The original film, the arts have both helped and hurt us, and I wanted to ask about that. And I'm just really gonna miss the channel because it was so great to see the community coming together, especially now, given the pandemic, when community has to be virtual right now. I feel bad that I hadn't been watching as regularly as I used to for a couple weeks, or I would not watch and then binge watch a bunch of videos. So I think especially now, knowing the channel will be inactive, I'm gonna go do that within the next few weeks. So yeah, that's my journey with the Pagan Perspective. It really helped me when I began my path, and it continued to do so. And to all the contributors, I wish you all well on your journeys, and hope, again, you're all safe and sound and everything's going well for you. And I hope that we all continue to find community beyond the channel, and if it comes back. And with that, I also want to ask to you, the viewers, what questions do you have for me? Because I'm a pagan, I'm a Wiccan. I incorporate my practice into not just meditation or spell work or things that would be considered specifically pagan or specifically working a spiritual path, but for instance, kitchen witchery is a big part of my path. I incorporate the energies of my food into what I'm cooking. That's one of the reasons why so many of my videos are recipe videos. So yeah, just what are your questions for me? And thank you for watching, and happy and safe travels to the Pagan Perspective YouTube channel and contributors. You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much for all you've done for our community, and I wish you all well, and I hope to connect with you all individually outside the channel. And thank you all so much. Blessed be, and I'll see you next time.